Hello and a warm welcome to another instalment of the Matchbook Racing Review. The classics are long gone. This is all about potential. This is all about two-year-old performances of note. I say the classics are long gone. I'm talking about Epsom and I'm talking about the Derby and the Oaks, which we've had. We've still got the Irish Derby and the Irish Oaks coming up. We're looking forward to them very much. But between now and then, we're going to be talking about, in the main, some two-year-old performances we just had this weekend, of which there were plenty of notes, and perhaps with an eye on Royal Ascot and some older horse performances as well. I say we, that is me, Tom Stanley, and Donn McLean, who is over yonder, the other side of the screen, over in Ireland. How's things, Donn? You well?
Oh, good, thanks, Tom. Yeah, deadly. Yeah, look, it was one of those weekends, wasn't it? There was a lot of things going on. There's no Derby, no Oaks. As you say, it's not too long now to the Irish Derby, but yeah, lots of interesting stuff, including, as you say, a few juveniles worth mentioning and worth talking about.
Well, we had from Beverley, which is where we're going to start. We had the main row. We had the Hillary Needler for the fillies, and we had one for the Colts as well, the Brian Yeardley. And we had Liberty Beach winning for John Quinn. Thought she was impressive. She went on nicely for her debut. But the one I wanted to pick out of that, Don, was Moon of Love in the cool silk colours. They got a really good record in the race. They won, I think, the past two renewals, and both those fillies went on to run at the Royal meeting. And I thought Moon of Love, she wasn't unlucky not to win necessarily, but she got really hampered up on the rail. And it's worth pointing out it was her debut as well. Now, she had £3 on the field because she was a newcomer, but she just got absolutely really squeezed for room under Barry McHugh on the rail. And I thought, Don, that off the back of that she might just be let to coast home in her own time. And Barry McHugh wasn't hard on her at all. But the way she still kept finding, I thought, was really encouraging. And I thought, I don't know whether she will transition onto Royal Ascot. It's early days, of course. And I'm not taking anything away from the winner. And Mark Johnson's filly, I thought, shaped as though she wanted a bit further. She's got a lot of experience. But I thought the one to take out of that race was Moon of Love, where things just didn't go right. And she still showed a good deal of professionalism for a newcomer. And just kicking on to the one for the Colts and Geldings, I thought Summer Sands was actually really good value for that win. He'd shaped really well in the York 5 furlong contest that he'd run in, which is always traditionally a very good race. And he shaped, I thought on the day, as if he wanted a bit further, but he showed a lot on this occasion. And for although Purple Rain was rallying, I thought he was pretty good value for the win. Now, I don't know what his intended target is, but I think he could well be a Royal Ascot proposition. Again, connections have gone on. I think they won the Norfolk with the previous winner of this race, trained by Robert Cow, Prince Alir. And I thought he was the sort of justified one to take out of that Summer Sand. So really both the cool silk horses that really caught my eye from Beverley.
Yeah, and I fully agree with him, Moon of Love. I mean, not that she's under the radar. Lots of people saw it. I thought it was interesting that Richard Fahey pitched her into the Hillary Needler on her racecourse debut, and obviously with connections as they are, they obviously thought they could go and win it. As you say, she got her £3 allowance. But, you know, it was a kind of a funny one because watching the race, there was always there was a gap. The gap was kind of there on the rail, but it was a tight gap, and there was always a chance that it would close, and it did. And yeah, look, it wasn't just a little bit of a bump she took. It wasn't just, you know, that she was slightly squeezed for room. She really got properly hampered, didn't she? Like, she lost her hind legs, and she did well to stand up, actually, I thought.
I think I've been a bit unfair in saying a little bump.
Yeah, no,
but she got squeezed, and it was one of those where she clearly felt the rail. She tried to jink left. There was a horse there, and she did well to even find her feet and stay up.
Well, she did. And, you know, then, she did really well even to finish third off, because then whenever she came out, she got bumped a wee bit by Rosa Kildare. Like, it wasn't easy sailing for her after that, and like, she showed an awful lot of guts to stay on as well as she did to take third. I thought she was unlucky, you know. I thought if she'd have got a clear run, it's hard to know. You never know with these things, but she probably would have won. And yeah, look, she's obviously a classy filly. I suppose there's just a wee bit of a danger that she'd be over bet next time, as unlucky losers often are. But it was one of those at the Curragh on Friday, Little Clarinet, and I thought she was way underpriced at 3-1. She went off 11-4 and won easily. Well, not easy, but she won a big race. But, you know, yeah, definitely Moon of Love. And then Summer Sands, Barry McHugh. I suppose it was a lot more plain sailing for Barry McHugh and Summer Sands, and he ran out a good winner as well. So no, two good races, two good juvenile races from Beverley on Saturday.
And just to pick up on Oh Purple Rain, I backed the horse at Epsom in the race won by Pina Tubo, the woodcut, and he didn't handle Epsom at all. Now, He'd won well at Nottingham on his debut, and he was green that day and looked as though he wanted a bit more time. I thought he possibly looked as though he would get even further than that. That was over 6. He then ran over 6 in the Woodcut, and for all he kept on, he hated Epsom, as some do. He didn't handle the bend at all, and he certainly didn't enjoy the camber either. Now, they dropped him back in trip, and actually I felt that, I think it was Pat Dobbs on board, who was constantly niggling away at him, and I just thought he looked like a horse that wanted a return to 6. I understand why they ran him here, but I wouldn't give up on Oh Purple Rain just yet. I think he's, when Summer Hannons win on debut, they tend to be very good anyway because they take a step forward for that. I think he was expected to do so, and I'd be very interested in him if he cropped up back over 6 somewhere. Let's kick on to action from Navan on Saturday. First, well, 2 Aidan O'Brien horses, 1 filly, 1 colt. You've got Tango, and you've got, unsurprisingly, son of Glen Eagles, Royal Lytham, who was really impressive. But start with the filly Tango. I suppose the question, it's either Queen Mary or Albany for her off the back of her win.
Yeah, look, she was very good, Tom. I suppose, she was a long odds-on shot, 1 to 6, so she was expected to do what she did, and she only won by 2 or 3 lengths in the end, but she did it very, very easily. Donnacha O'Brien said afterwards, he was always comfortable on her, and he looked very comfortable on her. Yeah, that's 5.5 furlongs. I think, I think they were talking about the Albany Stakes maybe. Like Glen Eagles, he's a new sire. I think that she might be his 4th runner, as in his 4th individual runner, and he's had 3 winners now, maybe 3 from 5, something like that. So he's a very interesting sire, and it's going to be interesting to monitor his developments, the progress of his progeny. But for Royal Lytham, and look, he was very good. Again, like I suppose he wasn't the number 1 of the stable, and it looked a bit not dangerous, but a little bit. It looked like he might be an unlucky loser because he didn't have an awful lot of room on the far side. Dark Vader was in front, and Prince of Naples was up on his outside, and his better fancied stable companion United Front was further back, and he just didn't pick up like it looked like he would. But in fairness to Royal Lytham, once he got the gap and Shamie Heffernan asked him to pick up, he was impressive in picking up, and that's his racecourse debut. Glen Eagles progeny keep on, he's going to get further. He's bred to get further. That was 5.5 furlongs. I think his dam is a middle distance filly. There's definitely middle distance in his pedigree. So you'd think that he would, and obviously Glen Eagles, I think he's a dual Guineas winner, a triple Group 1 winner. So there's every chance that stepping up from this trip to maybe 6, maybe even 7. Like he could be maybe even a Chesham horse for Royal Ascot, but you'd be surprised if he didn't get on the Royal Ascot ticket, wouldn't you? Yeah,
I think that you would imagine so, given that he was as you say, the lesser fancy behind United Front, who is a big lad. I mean, you just saw in the side-on shot, I thought showed it perfectly. The others just had almost too much pace for him, and actually weirdly looked a bit more professional, I thought, than United Front. Who I wouldn't give up on by any stretch. He was 4 to 7, and he was beaten, but I just think he could need a little bit of time. Whereas it was interesting that Royal Lytham was ready to win first up. He was the lesser fancied of the 2. I think he's got a gain Railway Stakes entry. He's got a Derby entry for next year, but most of them do, so I wouldn't look too much into that. But I like the way he picked up between horses. But I wouldn't give up on United Front, who was just on the wider outside of the group just yet. I think they'd stick to 6 for now, I would say. And as for the filly, last year's winner of that race, she went on to stay over 5. And I think she'd won the same race at the Curragh, for she was a little bit more experienced. She'd had 1 more run than Tango. But she's bred to get a little bit further. So I think, like you, Tango may be one for going up half a furlong in trip off the back of that win over 5.5. It's funny, that 5.5, because it gives you obvious options. You either drop back half or you go up half, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. And look, Navan's a stiff 5.5, so it's a stiff track. So if you're getting 5.5 and staying on as well as she did over 5.5, then you'd like to think she'll get 6. Although obviously Ascot's a stiff 6 as well. But I think it's more Albany than Queen Mary for Tango, isn't it? I think it was the Albany Stakes that they were talking about afterwards. So that would be interesting, and that's another. It gives another kind of vote of confidence to the Albania Jessica Harrington's filly, the maiden that she won. Like Tango was only just beaten by her at the Curragh on Guineas weekend, so it's going to be interesting to see where she goes as well. Albania in obviously the Alpha Centauri Niarchos family colours. Yeah, and that could be a good maiden. That maiden on King's Weekend that she won. So look, but Tango, look, she did no more than the market expected her to do, but it was nice to see her go and do it. And then it's another stepping stone up probably to Royal Ascot for her. Yeah,
I thought the juvenile performance of the weekend came at Newmarket, and it's probably a horse who we won't see at Royal Ascot, depending on what the owners of Visionary for Mark Johnson wants to do. He was so impressive, the way he quick and clear of Charlie Appleby's Ottoman Empire, who is clearly very well regarded and was sent off favourite on debut and was sent off favourite on this occasion. But I think, Don, they quite simply bumped into one in the form of Visionary, who powered clear. He was always up there. He knew his job. And most importantly, the time was unbelievably good. Now, he was quicker than Flavius Titus over the same course and distance in an older horse handicap. He carried £2 less, I know. But if he was getting a juvenile allowance, he'd have beaten him lengths. I mean, that in itself, I think, is really taking, because you've got a sprint handicap later on the card where you're going to get a solid gauge of the time, because they're not going to hang about, and it's not as if you can look at the time and say, well, you were running over 1.5 miles and they crawled, etc. You get a good gauge of the time and how it's riding. When the preceding race is quicker and it's set by a newcomer and a juvenile, that's monster performance. So you've got to be taken with that. I thought it was interesting that Charlie Johnson, who was at Newmarket, initially said, we'll miss Royal Ascot and we'll come back either for the July Stakes or the Superlative. And I think he mentioned 7 first. Now, in my limited experience or limited quality of gauging Connection's reaction, which I always find very hard to do, mainly because I don't listen when I'm stuck a microphone inside.
That would be a handicap, all right.
I'm trying to learn. But I thought the fact that he said 7, and I think, well, that means Superlative, the Group 2 at the July meeting straight away, means that they'd be quite keen, I think, to step the horse up in trip. That makes sense given the way he saw it out. But you had to be excited by that. It was the race won by Calix 12 months ago, so I think we were excited coming into it. But it was more about Charlie Appleby's horse. This horse was sent off 10-1 for his debut, so clearly better was expected in the future. I was really taken with that. It was the juvenile performance of the weekend for me.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. I suppose it was interesting to listen to Charlie Johnson afterwards saying that they were nearly afraid to run him, like he was progressing. They were holding him back, and then he was just showing them so much at home. They said, look, go and run him. And yeah, look, Ryan Moore, it was interesting as well that Ryan Moore got him out of the gate and brought him over towards the stands rail. I always think wherever Ryan Moore is in a course, that's where you want to be. And look, it didn't matter where he would have been. He came clear and won. He was so impressed with winning. And actually, Ottoman Court, yeah, as you say, he just bumped into one. He came clear of the rest, and maybe he won't be under the radar as such, but it was still a good performance by him. And when you have a performance like that is as visually impressive as it was on his racecourse debut, and it's backed up by the time as well. So it's not. I think a visual impression. It's definitely a factor, but when it's backed up by a good time. No, that's very exciting, and the way that he did it, he probably won with plenty in hand. It was his racecourse debut. He'll probably improve from that. You can understand that he handled the track so well. So it wasn't surprising at all to hear Charlie Johnson mention the July Stakes as a possible next port of call. Although it would be great to see him at Royal Ascot, because as you say, Calix went and won the Coventry Stakes on the back of winning this last year. So it would be good to see him at Royal Ascot, but it can't be all about Royal Ascot either. And if they were kind of waiting to run him, and now he's run, and if they want to wait, and it makes sense, given the individual, the horse that he is, to wait until the July meeting, then that's it's going to be exciting to see him wherever he goes next.
Yeah, thanks for pointing out Ottoman Court, by the way, not Ottoman Empire. I'm giving it an upgrade there. I called Spanish City Spanish Moon the other day. But yeah, they obviously think a lot about the Appleby horse, and then for him to go and do that was really, really taking. But I do think they'll, what Calix did last year was almost unconventional to go on that really quick backup. It's something John Gosden's done before, actually. But I think that they will just wait, and that's fine. They want to do what's best by the horse. Looking at his pedigree, he's a dark angel, but there is stamina on his damn side as well, up to 1.5 miles, really. So I just get the impression they'll step up in trip, and
Yeah, he's out of a Sindar mare, isn't he? So that there's every chance that he couldn't. I mean, Dark Angel's obviously got the pace, and we see that a lot, don't we? With either with Galileo and speedy mares, or with the an Aga Khan type mare, middle distance mare, and a speedy sire. So yeah, but look, he won like he could easily go 7, didn't he?
He'll win the Dewhurst. Done.
Yeah,
Easy. Aidan O'Brien won't have anything for that. He's got nothing.
No, not many anyway.
No, exactly. Take us to, where were you Friday, Don? You saw it. You had a couple of juvenile performances there with the Curragh.
Yeah, the Curragh Friday. Yeah, yeah. Look, it was a really good meeting actually. Little Grey was so impressive in winning the opening maiden for Sheila Lavery, and Sheila Lavery, she seemed to be very surprised by him. But like, her horses are in really good form as well. The Prince of Naples as well ran very well in that maiden that we talked about earlier. But Little Grey, like, she just travelled so well for Robbie Colgan up on the outside of the lead, and it looked like a good maiden. Alligator Alley brought good form into the race. Year of the Tigers out of Tiggy Wiggy by Galileo, so obviously well bred, and actually he ran on very well from the rear. He was a bit of a one of the horses to note from the race. But Little Grey, she was the horse to take out of the race. Sometimes you overlook the obvious, and she was really, really good. She just quickened away. She won with plenty in hand. She won by 2 or 3 lengths, and yeah, again, she took form she had racecourse experience coming into the race. She finished second in a Leopardstown maiden won by Fozzie Stackhorse last time, Mohican Heights. So yeah, look, she stepped forward from that. It was an encouraging debut run. This was way more encouraging, obviously very impressive, and yeah, like she could be very, very good. And then Lopi Fernandez, yeah, again, debutant of Aidan O'Brien's, was sent off a relatively short price favourite, travelled really well into the race and just came clear. That was 7 furlongs, the Colts maiden, and he saw that really well. Like, it's Love to Vegas having some time of it now after the Guineas and the Prix d'Ispahan. So this is a young horse who could progress and be very good. And Kipling, who's a full brother to Seventh Heaven, the Irish Oaks winner, he kept on well as well. From the rear, he was kind of in behind early on, and he stayed on well. So he did well to finish second to him. So again, another strong maiden, Galactic Grey, Ken Conlon's horse, was really well backed and just failed to get the 3rd spot. He was back from massive prices down to 5 or 6 to 1. He kind of took it up early and went to, I guess, make his racing experience tell. He just missed out in 3rd, but he ran a good race. But now Lopi Fernandez, yeah, he could easily go on from this, and Kipling as well will probably improve it when he steps up and trip.
Are, Don, more of the Aidan O'Brien horses winning first up this season? I don't have stats to back this up, but it feels that they are in comparison to last year. It feels like last year they really took a while to, not across the board, to come to hand. But this year, I think his first 5 juveniles won, and they seem to have hit the ground running as well as ever, perhaps this season. I wonder if that's perhaps a change, not a change in approach, but a change in how they are, perhaps due to conditions. I don't know. Didn't we have a really wet time of it the winter before, and maybe that means that they couldn't get on the grass, and perhaps they've been on the grass earlier this year. I'm not sure, but it just feels as though they could be that little bit more forward. Anything winning first up, you got to take with his anyway, because they do come on so much. But it just feels more so than ever, or as much as ever, they are bang ready first up. Yeah,
I think you're right, Tom. I think Aidan said earlier in the season that he was able to get on the grass. Like, we've had such a mild winter, as we know, from National Hunt horses looking for water ground in February. So yeah, he's been able to get them out earlier, and I don't think it means that they won't come on for the seasonal debut, because that's Aidan O'Brien's style. He just lets the horses develop with racing. But no, I think you're right, and I don't have the stats either, but I think you're right. I think they seem to be getting a lot closer, or winning first time up, like even Royal Lytham on his debut as well. Yeah, I think it looks like they're definitely. It looks like he as he says, he would probably be able to do more with them and get on grass before they run, so therefore they're more ready. But I think they'll come on as well. It could be that he's got a very, very good bunch of 2-year-olds this year.
Last one I'm going to flag up, Don, is from Friday. Last juvenile is Guildsman for Archie Watson. Another shock horror winning juvenile for Archie Watson. And just on him, it's not that he's got a great strike rate with all his horses. It just so happens the last couple of years he's had more juveniles than anything in the yard. You don't want to pigeonhole him as a juvenile trainer. He just, that's where he is, and he's going to have a lot of nice 3-year-olds this year as a result as well. But he's hit the ground running with his juveniles, and Gouldsman I thought was really impressive at Goodwood in traditionally what is a strong race. The likes of Jungle Cat and I think Boynton, Main Edition, have won it. Main Edition went on to Royal Ascot success as well. I don't know where this horse will go. I think he qualifies for a Chesham. He's a son of Wootton Bassett. But moreover, I wonder if they'll stick to 6 for now. The way he quick and clear was really impressive. And he wasn't all that sharply away either. He's got Al Manzour in the pedigree, so further's going to suit in time. But I was quite taken with him. You get some really good juvenile contests at Goodwood, which produce some very good winners. The likes of, even last year, Natalie's Joy won there before going on to be favourite for a Chesham. Main Edition's another one I mentioned, and this was another taking performance at Goodwood by a seemingly really smart 2-year-old, a son of Wootton Bassett. So I think he could be quite exciting going forward.
He looked impressive. He was weak in the market beforehand as well, wasn't he, on his race course debut? So that's I always think that's a positive. If a horse is weak in the market, especially a newcomer, and to win as easily and as impressively as he did, it's obviously the connections are the market, whoever the market is, expected him to come on for the run at least. So to do that and win as well as he did,
particularly his 2-year-olds as well, where they tend to I think with those, they're quite well aware of where they're at. I think the market can be a good guide. So you'd have to be. That was going to be the one I was most excited about, and then Visionari came along.
I ruined it. Ruined the Gouldsman track, yeah.
Thanks a lot. What else do we have? I want to throw a mention to Safe Voyage, who took the Group 3 feature Haydock. We've clearly moved on from our 2-year-old section. We've done 2-year-olds wise, aren't we? Have I missed anything?
We mentioned most 2-year-olds that ran over the weekend.
Exactly. There's no more. Safe Voyage for John Quinn and Jason Hart, who just keeps getting better and better. Now, the horse loves Haydock, that's obvious. And he loves cutting the ground as well, which is good because they've had that Haydock quite a lot. I think he's won for all of those 7 furlong races on easy ground. He could be one for a Foray, for example, at the back end of the year over in France. You got the Hungerford as well, but I think easy ground's clearly important to him. Now, they made the point afterwards that he's versatile ground wise, but I think when a horse has shown as much as he has with cutting the ground and the way he quickens on it in comparison to some of the others, I think that is a prerequisite. And he clearly loves the track, but I think he's won his last 4 there. But I wouldn't pigeonhole him as a Haydock specialist, but I would definitely suggest that cutting the ground is important to him. For all, it was a weekend where we were devoid slightly of some of the. We didn't have any Group 1s, for example, to just get our teeth stuck into. But I was pleased for John Quinn, who's got a really smart prospect on his hands.
Yeah, and it was a good weekend for John Quinn. But yeah, look, I suppose the fact that Mancave, who I backed, by the way, reared in the stalls and banged his head like Jim Crowley did absolutely the right thing in pulling him up. I just thought he had a 3 pounds pull. He didn't have as good a run through the race the last time as Safe Voyage had, and he had to come a little bit wide, and that was his seasonal debut. I thought the market, again, we're back to who the market is, had them further apart than they should have been. I thought Mancave should have been touched him, but for all of that, you're absolutely right. Safe Voyage was very, very good. He's flat racing's answer to Bristol DeVay, isn't he? Soft ground Haydock, and now he's going to win on good ground somewhere else.
I reckon it's so bad at Haydock that I reckon Bristol was sat in his field going, Nige, supplement me.
Stick me in there. The rain at Haydock. Yeah, what is it? 7 furlongs?
I'll do that.
But yeah, look, it's going to be interesting to see him away from Haydock, isn't it? Because he's 4 for 4 now at Haydock, so you can easily say put him at Haydock and he'll beat anything, especially on soft ground. But it could be that he's just an improved horse again this year. So I mean, I know he's 6, but it looks like he's found a new level of form this season, albeit at Haydock on soft ground. So yeah, like a Hungerford Stakes or Foray, why not? But yeah, there's usually something in a horses for courses thing, whatever it is. They like it there. They enjoy the way races are run. They enjoy the terrain, or they enjoy the contours of the track, or just psychologically they enjoy being back there where they've done so well before. So yeah, it was a really good performance. He probably the race was weakened by Mankib's I suppose his mishap at the stalls, but at the same time he looked very, very good in winning it. And Suidwa, he's a good horse. He came up on his outside and he finished off his race well, and Saifoy just went away from him. So now it was a really good performance.
Mankib got a really nasty bang, by the way. I think it was quite nasty in the end. Maureen Haggis told our very own Gordon Brown on Racing TV, who was there doing the race course presenting. It was quite a nasty old cut and bang, and around his eye socket, I believe. I think it's going to be okay, but it might take a bit of recovering from. It's horrible when you see that happen. What else do we have from the Curragh on Friday? You had a couple of older horses to mention, Don.
Yeah, Micromanage, Willie Mullins and Donnacha O'Brien. I mean, the fact that Donnacha O'Brien was riding him, that was significant in itself before he ever saw him going anywhere or setting foot anywhere. But he just was so good, so easy. He travelled supremely well. He was really well backed as well, down to even money. I know Joseph O'Brien's horse came out, but he was even being backed before Joseph O'Brien's horse came out, and without him in it, he danced in. Cuban Hope and Yonkers finished second and third. Looks like they ran to their mark. Cuban Hope stayed on while he was actually a pound well in, racing under a £6 penalty. But Micromanage just toyed with them, and I was working with Gary O'Brien at the weekend, and we were kind of talking beforehand. Royal Ascot, where would he go? And I was kind of thinking Queen's Vase. He could run in the Queen's Vase. It's 1 6 miles now, stepping up 2 furlongs and trip. But David Casey, who was there, he said, look, it may be that he might not go to Royal Ascot at all. Get him home and see how he is, and talk to the boss. And
he doesn't have any fancy entries, does he? Because I was looking, I mean, you'd think of him as a. Look, he doesn't have an Irish Derby or anything like that, but whether he could be a sort of top horse over 1.5 miles, but I don't think he's got any entries of note. I wonder if he's just caught them by surprise a little bit, or just they didn't cost a huge amount of money, but he's progressing at a rate of knots.
Yeah, I don't think he caught them by surprise on the day, as in they seemed to expect him to do what he did on the day, and the fact that Donnacha O'Brien was booked as well was significant. But yeah, maybe the way that he's progressed since last year, maybe they've caught them a wee bit by surprise. But yeah, look, he's only winning a handicap offer mark of 91, so you can't get too carried away. But he's going to get whatever he's going to get for that, a stone maybe, and that brings him up at least on the coattails of Pattern Class. And he's only run that was only his 3rd run, so he can improve again, and he'll probably get further. Yeah. So yeah, the Triumph Hurdle could be the race for him. You don't know. You wouldn't know where he got. Apparently, he's schooled really well over hurdles as well. Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah.
It could be.
You wouldn't know. Like he could do anything. He could step up and trip. It could be a cup horse in time. Could be a top class hurdler. You just don't know. But really impressive. And then Sophia as well. She was so good. She. It looks like she's improved again this season. Like she was impressive in winning a listed race last time on her previous run at Naas, and then that was over 5, back over 6, and she showed an awful lot of pace. She just kind of got there. So Dan's Dream finished off her race really well, and she's a filly who gets further. So Sophia maybe best at 5, Dan's Dream maybe best at 7, and Sophia just held on. But
I'm going to keep backing Dan's Dream, Don. I know I am. I backed her a few times, and I'm convinced 7. She likes Newbury. Maybe she couldn't be a Hungerford filly against the boys, but I'll probably end up backing her next time over 7. She's run into a couple of good ones now.
Well, she was unlucky last on her previous run in the Tazi Stakes. She was just caught by Happen. It looked like she'd come to win her race, and Happen came even later and wider and faster. But look, she's a good mare, and she set it. I thought she ran her race over 6, albeit, as you say, and it looks like she'd be better over 7. But Sophia, interesting, Eddie Lynham was saying afterwards that he thinks she's got faster. So while she won a handicap at the Curragh last summer over 6, and actually she was only just beaten over 7 earlier before that. But if she's got faster back over 5, then like she's again like that's listed race Group 3. Step Up and Trip. I think the Sapphire Stakes to Group 2. And then the Flying 5 back at the Curragh on Irish Champions Weekend. Eddie Lynham mentioned that as her ultimate goal this season. So yeah, she's a fast filly. She's a talented sprinter.
Good to have fast Eddie, but I just want fast Eddie to have another 3 serious 5 furlong horses.
Yeah, no, like, he can train him, doesn't he? He's got a lot of sprinters.
Yeah, I won't forget that that treble 4 or 5 years ago, I guess it was now, with the Powers and Anthem Alexander. Yeah, she was very good, as you say.
And she won the sole power race on a previous run at Naas, so that was an appropriate victory for her and for him.
Good spot. What else we got? 3 handicappers just to tie up. 2 of them from Newmarket, all for William Haggis. I think we'll go Britannia. Won that off 88. So would need a revised mark to definitely get in there. I think he's quite good. And I actually think a hold-up ride at the Straight Mile at Ascot could be interesting for him. There are a few horses that came out of his race previously, the race before the one he won at Newmarket, who I think could head there from that 3-yard race, who could be very interesting. We've also got Flavius Titus, who won, but I want to mention Spanish City, who was in behind at Newmarket. I don't think he's going to get in the Wokingham. Roy Delaghi mentioned him on the podcast. I'm not sure he's going to. He would be perfect for that race, but I don't think he's going to get in Spanish City. And also, bless him, who ran at Chelmsford, needed to win to get into the Royal Hunt Cup. I ran an absolute cracker for 4th. Don't we love horses that run well for 4th, Don?
Oh, yeah.
I don't think he's going to. I'm basically telling you horses who aren't going to get in the races I want to run in. But they're definitely horses to keep on side. A stiff 6 for Spanish City and a return to a stiff Straight Mile for bless him. If only he just won't get in the Hunt Cup. But seriously, he's a horse who I think is just going to have a good season this year. But this is the fun part about anti-post handicap betting, is you just never quite know, Don.
Well, at least if they don't get in, you get your money back. So that's at least that. So hopefully you'll have a lot of refunds over the course of the next few days. So
you're a very positive man.
On Newmarket on Saturday, I know it's a track, and so is the Rowley Mile, where it does tend to favour pace, but it seemed to be even more pronounced on Saturday. Like Spanish City was one of the few horses who got and that's like Flavius Titus and Louis de Palma. They were up front throughout, disputing, and Flavius Titus just proved the strongest. Spanish City did well to run on as well as he did, and Ascot, suits him better, and he's got good form at Ascot as well. So yeah, you can see it.
It is always the way, more so than ever. There were 2 seasons ago, there was sort of more, or maybe it was the people I was talking to in the press room, but there seemed to be even more talk about it. It happened again last year. I think good ground, and it was decent ground on Saturday, at least it was somewhere at Newmarket. At the July course, moreover than the Rowley Mile for me, it suits pace. You've got to be on the speed. You have to be on the speed to have any chance. Most of them were. The ones we talked about, Visionary was always right up there. Flavius Titus wasn't too far away. And Spanish City got involved from a bit further back. But you're right. I think you've got to be on the speed. And that's something in the however many meetings we have over summer at the July course, you've got to pay attention to that. Because if you're a hold-up type and you look at the race and you can't see much pace anyway, you could be in trouble.
Yeah. And maybe it's more pronounced over shorter distances like 5, 6, 7. More so than the middle distances, but no, it seemed to be, just watching it seemed to be the case that nothing was able to come from the rear, and you kind of get fooled in the July course because of that stiff uphill climb at the end. You kind of get fooled into thinking that maybe a horse can come from behind, but they can't.
No, it's very difficult. Poor old Spanish City. Maybe it's because I called him Spanish Moon last time I talked about it like that. Good stuff, Don. Thanks very much indeed.
Thanks,
I'll see you personally tomorrow because we're in the race studio together. Looking forward to that. I know you're London bound today, so enjoy that. We'll chat to you again next week. Don, thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Tom.
And thank you to those of you at home for watching, for listening. We'll have a Matchbook betting podcast again this weekend, and that'll be our second instalment of our Royal Ascot preview. And Don and I on our Matchbook racing review. We'll see you again next week. For now.